Welcome to the fourth live chat of FutureWISE, and we're really pleased to be able to welcome Savannah from the University of Leicester, who I know lots of you guys are interested in sort of finding out more about. So the way that today will work is the way that all of the chats have been working. So Savannah will do just a very quick overview of Leicester and what they offer. And a few other bits and bobs, and then we'll open it up to questions from you guys. So you can ask any questions you want, even if it seems a small or a silly question. Please take the opportunity to ask it while we've got Savannah here. And the way you do that is by typing on the Q&A button on your screen. So you can submit questions that way, and feel free to start doing it from now. You can start submitting them straight away, and we will answer them throughout the next sort of 50 odd minutes, and that's the way it will run. So I'm going to hand over to Savannah now to just give us a bit of an overview, and then we'll get into your questions. Thank you.
Brilliant, thank you. So yeah, my name's Savannah, and usually on this day you'd see me, I'd be in the school seeing you and saying hi, but you just get to see my screen on my face on the screen today. But I work at the University of Leicester. I visit schools all over the UK, like showing HE advice, letting you know a bit more about university and University of Leicester specifically. I went to uni as well, so I've been through the process that you will have gone through. So if you have any questions about that at all, student finance, anything like that, now's the time to ask that as well. With the University of Leicester, a lot of you will be really familiar with it, seeing that it's just down the road from you. But one fun fact that I really enjoy saying is that we're the only university in the world that's actually a living memorial to the First World War. So we were crowdfunded by the people of Leicester to actually create this university. So it's got a really good origin story, and we are very linked to the community as well for that reason. And a lot of the research we're doing at the moment is to kind of help the community and make sure that you have that community feel when you're at university as well. We're a campus university, and we're just by the city. I won't tell you too much about the city of Leicester because you will all know lots about it. And we do have the O2 Academy on site. If none of you have been there already, they have some really cool events. You probably won't know them, but I'm sure Kate will. The Darkness were playing there. They're one of my favourite bands. They're a very old band, but they have really cool ones like Twin Atlantic playing as well. So lots going on, as well as an award-winning student union with over 300 sports and societies as well. So there's a lot to get involved with. And if you can't find something that you're really interested in, you could always make a society. I think Chicken Nugget Appreciation Society is one of the most bizarre that I've come across. But there's loads out there to make sure you're meeting like-minded people as well, and people who are commuting to the university too. There's a lot of new building that's going on. I'm sure you've seen it when you've been going past, including expansions on the student union, and also making sure that we've got new equipment and nice fresh lecture facilities for you as well with the studies that you do. A lot of our studies cover a range of different aspects. So we've got everything from like biology, medicine, and we've got art history, English, lots of different topics. So just ask in the comments and I'll let you know if we do it and give you a bit more information as well. And it's guaranteed accommodation for first years if you do decide that you want to move into accommodation. There's 22,000 students, 13,000 full-time on campus, 9,000 distance learning, and 4,000 full-time international students from over 80 non-EU countries, which means that it's incredibly globally diverse. You're going to meet people from around the UK, but also around the world, which is really useful if you do decide to take a gap year like me after university, because you'll have lots of people that you know, and you can kind of maybe stay at their house when you do eventually go travelling, if you do as well. Some of the more important facts are that we're ranked 166th in the world, 24th in the UK, according to Times Higher Education World University Rankings. We've got TEF Silver, which kind of, that ranking, that kind of looks at student satisfaction and the research we're doing, as well as other aspects as well. So it's kind of looking at the university as a whole. We're top 25 in the UK for research as well, according to Times Higher Education research rankings, and that means that we're doing a lot of research that's kind of cutting edge and is really current at the moment, including COVID-19 research. And you're taught by those lecturers who are doing that research, so they're teaching you stuff they're really passionate about, and they're learning new things because of that every single day. So it's in a really exciting place to be at, and it also means that if you do decide to study something in particular and your academic who's teaching you is doing research, there might be an opportunity to get involved as well, which looks really good for you, especially if you really are interested in that subject. DNA fingerprinting was also discovered here, so there's loads of exciting stuff going on there in regards to teaching and the social aspect as well.
Thanks, Savannah. That's really interesting to hear all that, actually, because we forget how what amazing opportunities there are just literally outside our door, don't we? Really, I think so. That's great, and the history of the uni as well. That's really interesting.
Yeah.
So start rolling in those questions, guys. Any questions you've got for Savannah about anything at all to do with Leicester, or as she said, to do with the wider kind of UCAS process? Feel free to start bagging them through by pressing the Q&A button, and we'll start to answer them. What would be some of your most popular courses?
Yeah, so some of the most popular courses is, of course, medicine. That's really, really popular and very competitive.
Yeah.
One thing that's really good about the University of Leicester is that we don't particularly specialise in a particular subject, which means that we're pretty good in all our subjects. Sciences are definitely really popular. Biological sciences and engineering and physics are probably some of the most popular, just because of everything we're doing as well in regards to that. So for physics and engineering, they worked on the last mission to get a satellite into space, and the results are coming back to Leicester. So the physics department are actually looking at that as well. So they're really, really involved in all the, kind of the latest missions and stuff, which is why it's so popular. Biological sciences is really popular as well because there's so many specialisms. You can just do plain biology, but there's also like microbiology, zoology, biochemistry, so many different options, and it's really good because they have a common first year. So it means that you can kind of, if you decide that there's something that's really, really taking your interest that you didn't think would, there's kind of flexibility to change as well.
That's really good to know, actually. Yeah, they all share a common first year, and then you specialise afterwards in what you're interested in.
Yeah, it's definitely good, and it's the same with engineering as well, and perhaps some of the I think physics too. I'm not too sure about that. I'll have to check that. But yeah, they do kind of have that common first year, because we know that some things that you think you really enjoy in school, you might not enjoy, or you might enjoy something more at university. But also there's so many things that you learn that are completely new when you get here, that you'll find really interesting. So it's kind of giving you that option as well. So yeah.
Absolutely, that's great. Okay, we've got a few questions coming in. So what's your history course like? So how does that kind of look?
Yeah, so the history department's pretty good because there's a lot of different options. So there's ancient history, if you're interested in the really ancient part of history and just specialising in that. They've got a really good department, and they're linked with archaeology as well, which is really good because, we did a lot to do with Richard III's remains as well. So it's a really nice department to be part of, and because we've got the museum literally right down the doorstep from us, it's great for you as well, because if you're interested in archiving and things like that, then you've got that on your doorstep as well. With the history course, if you do history, it means that you kind of get a mixture between medieval and then and modern history, and then before that, or you can choose to specialise in modern and medieval history if you're only interested in that particular part. So it is really good because it gives you the choice to specialise or be completely broad if you want to. The modules as well, it's not just UK history you look at, it's all over Europe. You've got some modules on Asia as well, so you learn a bit more about like Chinese history, American Civil War as well. So it kind of really broadens your horizons on what you can do. And because it is such a flexible course, it means that you get to choose a lot of your modules yourself. Like there's some core modules, but there's a lot of optional ones where you get to choose what you like.
So you can really specialise down based on your own interests.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
Great, thank you. And I guess all of that information about any of your courses is on the website, isn't it? About the modules and all that kind of thing.
Yeah, it's all on the website. So if you just go on our website, there's a really useful course search button, and you'll be able to find that there. But if you prefer to look at something like a prospectus where it's kind of in book form, we do have the PDF online as well, so you can find that, and you can find loads of really useful information about the university in general as well.
Brilliant, thank you. Another question then is asking about if you can give any advice on doing a placement year. I don't know, do Leicester do many placement years?
Yeah, so it depends on the course that you're interested in. A lot of our courses, if you want to write what course that you're interested in, I'll be able to tell you for definite whether you get a year in industry placement or not. For every course, some of them do the year in industry. Pretty much all our science courses do a year in industry and business as well. How that works is you have the option, as long as you've been achieving like a 2-1, to go and do a year in industry. They kind of help you with the CV aspect of that, and guide you to where you can look for placements, but it's up to you to kind of be independent and make sure that you're applying to those placements, because you have to apply to them, and they give you the resources to do that, and they will support you throughout that as well. If you don't want to do a year in industry, that's absolutely fine. A lot of people don't feel comfortable going for a whole year. You can do placements over the summer as well. We've got a really good careers department, as well as the academic department themselves, that will have lots of different industry networks, and can kind of help you build up your CV, do mock interviews with you, show you where to look for kind of summer placements as well. So you can get those too. They're really, really useful. And it's quite good as well, because it means if you decide to do a study abroad, you can still have industry placement, but it would be shorter. If you do the year in industry, you could always go and volunteer abroad as well. And the student union can help you with the volunteering programs, as well as the careers team. Careers team is really good as well, because they support you after you graduate, which is really important. And it doesn't matter when that is. It could be straight after you graduate, you need their help and you want them to look over a CV. It might be 5 years down the line when you decide you want a career change. So they're there to help you throughout all your life, not just at university too.
That's great. Thank you, Savannah. It's actually accounting and finance, the course. Do you know off the top of your head if that's one of your placement year ones?
Yeah, they do a placement year, definitely. If you look on their website, they've got quite a few examples of where people have ended up afterwards and on their placement. It's a really good one to do. It vastly improves your kind of career prospects, and if you do really well on that placement and they're looking for graduates afterwards, it means you've already got a network connection there as well. So I definitely recommend it for accounting, or any course in fact.
Yeah, well, that's brilliant, good news, great, thank you. So we've had a couple of questions on the personal statement, so we'll do a bit of a two-hander on this, because they're slightly different. One is, what advice would you have for writing a personal statement? And the other one is, what do you look for in a personal statement?
Yeah. So my advice to you to start with is it's really daunting. I found it really, really daunting when I started, because it's a blank document in front of you, and knowing where to start can be really scary. The most important thing is you just start writing. It doesn't matter how you do it, and ask yourself the question, why do you want to study this course, and what makes you the right person for that university, and just start getting stuff on paper. It doesn't matter if you do it like a spider diagram, it doesn't matter if you just type loads of random words that you find interesting to do with that subject or the skills that you have. Just get something down, because that's the hardest bit, and that's the best way to start. And from there, you can kind of start forming your ideas. So that's the advice I would give you, definitely, for starting a subject. Ask yourself that question and start thinking about, you know, the things that have really, really sparked your interest. In terms of what we're looking for in a personal statement, we're looking for one that's clear, concise and flowing. So it's good to stick to a structure, and I definitely recommend starting with a structure like introduction, academic skills, and everything to do with the academic side, which should be the biggest chunk of your personal statement. It should be about 75% of it. Your skills, work experience, and life achievements, which is about 25%, and then the conclusion. If you start with that structure, it's just a good way to make sure you've got everything included. And then if you find it flows in a better way, feel free to change it around. It's just making sure you've got all those aspects in there. The more flowing it is, and the more clear it is, the better, because the admissions tutor read hundreds of these every day. And so the clearer it is, the easier it is for them to pick out those clear skills as well that you have, and your knowledge of the course as well. With that being said, you'll probably have a different method that you use at WQE, or you might use this method, but try using ABC. So talk about the activity, the benefit of that activity, so what you've learned of it. Has it developed your knowledge? Has it given you a key academic skill? Has it given you a transferable skill? And then relate it back to the course. Using that just means that you're always making it relevant. And I know a lot of people worry that they're kind of worried about showing off because it is just writing about yourself. If you use that method, it's good showing off, because it's not just being like, oh, I've done this and I've done that. You're actually making it very relevant to the course, which is what we want to see.
Yeah, that's really good. Thank you, Savannah. So kind of clarity, using a structure, make it very obvious what course the student wants to do and why they're interested in it, and the skills they've got that they can bring to that course, I suppose.
Yeah, definitely. And showing you're well-rounded. So lots of examples.
Yeah, brilliant. Thank you. If anyone wants a bit more detail on any of these questions, you know, please just let us know in the Q&A comments. Just let us know if there's anything you want clarifying or want more information about anything. So we've had an email asking how Leicester view the EPQ and how much value you would put on that in an application.
Yeah, it depends on the course again. Some courses, they do lower the grade by 1 if you do the EPQ. So if you have a look online, just type in the course you're interested in and look on the entry requirements, and it'll tell you whether the EPQ does lower that grade. It differs from every course. The very competitive courses tend not to lower for EPQ. But other courses do. So check online and we'll know, but it changes from course to course. So the best thing to do is check online for that, and you'll be able to see. It's a good one to do anyway, though, because even if it doesn't lower a grade for the university, it's really good to write about in your personal statement, especially if it's relevant to the course that you want to do, because it's showing your independent learning and your in-depth knowledge of that subject as well.
Okay, that's great. I've just sent a comment to a student who just sent a question in asking if you're a year 1 or year 2 student. So if you could let me know that would be great, because that will affect the answer, I think. So we've got another question here, which is about, the question is a lot of value given to work experience? So I guess that's about how you view it. Do you need it for some courses, not others?
Yeah, it's exactly that. So for some courses, you need work experience, and it will say that in the entry requirements for the course. For us, it's courses like medicine, nursing, physiotherapy, allied health as well, I believe. They all ask for work experience. If they ask for it, you need to put it in your personal statement and say, you know, what skills it's given you, if it's developed your knowledge as well. If it doesn't specifically ask for work experience, you don't have to have done it. But if you feel that work experience has given you a really amazing skill that would be really useful for that course, then you can include it in your personal statement. But if it asks for it, then you definitely need to include it. And if you're worried about that at the moment, finding work experience, different things like that, there is Observe GP. If you type that in Google, I think it's observegp.org. You can actually kind of observe a GP virtually, which is really useful. And, you know, that wouldn't have come about unless we had lockdown, really. And they're really hard to come by, GP placements. So I would definitely make use of that. There's also doit.org. They've got lots of different volunteering opportunities. Some of them virtual that you can do like from your home. Some of them you'd have to wait until after lockdown. So there's things like phoning the elderly or people who are on their own for age concern, just to see how they are. And that's really useful for things like medicine and nursing, things like that too, because it's showing that you kind of have that caring attitude. It's giving you those key skills that they look for in those courses as well. So definitely have a look at that. But yeah, if you need work experience, if it requires it and it's an entry requirement, then you need to write it in your personal statement. If it doesn't, you don't have to include it, but if you feel like it adds something, you can include it.
Perfect. And you touched on that, how even in this sort of with this current circumstance, there's still ways that students can get work experience for those courses that need it.
Yeah, definitely. Definitely worth looking at those links that I mentioned there. Remember as well, everyone's in the same position as you. So there's lots of people who are worried about work experience as well, and we know that there isn't that much available too. But the more you can show us how much that you're doing, even in these challenging times, the better it'll look for you as well, because it's showing your commitment to that course, especially when they're really, really competitive, like medicine.
Yeah. Okay. This is a good question actually. I've called you guys about this before myself. So we offer a range of BTEC courses, some of which are 1 A-level equivalent and some are 2. And I know when you publish your entry requirements on the website, often it's got the A-level entry requirement and the BTEC entry requirement. And fairly often our students might be doing a mixture of both. Mm-hmm. So how can they kind of work out which, you know, whether that combination would be accepted?
Yeah, the easiest thing to do is to email the admissions team. And if you look on the course page that you're interested in, if you look in the prospectus, or you can even contact the admissions team on Unibuddy now, that's on the chat function on our website. If you just email them, tell them exactly what qualifications you're doing, what course you're interested in, and they will be able to tell you if you meet the requirements or not and what it kind of equivalates to as well. So yeah, get it from them, because they'll give you the direct answer that you need.
Yeah, and I know when I've spoken to admissions at Leicester before, that you do often accept those combinations, don't you? It's just they need to look at it really on a case-by-case basis, because it's often not straightforward. So
yeah.
Very often is fine, but just worth checking with admissions, or with us in careers, because we might know as well, because it might be a course that we're used to. So yeah, that's a good question. So the question, there is a question. I'm going to assume this student is a first year, so looking to apply to go next year. So I wouldn't mind just saying a little bit from the college perspective first, if that's okay. And then, so the question is, what happens if your predicted grades aren't what you expect and you don't get a university offer? So what I would say from a college perspective would be that we're here to help you make sure, as far as possible, that doesn't happen. So our role is to look at your predicted grades, and if the courses that you're looking at are far from what those grades are, is to work with you to look at potentially some alternatives or other ways you can get into that course. So ideally, before you've even sent your application off, you will have had those conversations with us about, okay, is this application realistic? Because that's what we want to do, is work out that it is, because we don't want students getting 4 or 5 rejections back, because that's not a nice position to be in. So but let's say an application does go forward and let's say the predicted grades kind of don't quite match the entry requirements, how would you sort of look at that situation?
Yeah, so it very much depends on the course as well. You know, with medicine, because it's so competitive, if you haven't got the predicted grades for that, they wouldn't give you an offer. But for a lot of other courses, if you're kind of just missing it by one grade, they'll still give you a conditional offer, but the conditions will be the entry requirements that they require, and hopefully you would get that and manage that. But I would say when you do apply, you know, it's okay to have maybe a couple of aspirational universities. I had one when I applied, and I managed to get an offer from them. But make sure you've got some realistic ones in there as well, just because the worst thing to happen would be to aim really high and then get declined from all your 5 choices. So, you know, make sure you're having a variation, be aspirational, but also have some realistic ones that meet your predicted grades as well. Is a really, really good idea. But yeah, often universities, if you're just kind of missing it by 1 grade, they'll give you that conditional offer anyway and hope that you meet the conditions of it. It just very much depends on the course.
Yeah, completely agree with that aspirational choice thing, because you're right, you often do find that some offers will come back, don't you? So that's some really good advice there. Thank you. Okay, so we're on to our another question. Keep sending through those questions, guys. So we've only got Savannah for another half an hour maximum. So if there's any questions you want to ask about Leicester, about UCAS process, about anything to do with careers or progression, please feel free to submit your questions. And as I said, if anyone needs any other information about questions they've already asked, you can let us know that as well. But there's a question about any recommendations to find summer internships.
Is that, I'm guessing that will be while they're at university, or is that?
It's easier to do at university, isn't it? I think it's easier when they're at uni.
Yeah, at university at the moment, obviously, it's a little bit harder, just because of how it is at the moment. But when you're at university, if you choose Leicester, the careers team are there to really, really help you with that. So they'll be able to really help. I think they have a couple of internships on there, but I'm not too sure. They might be worth looking at those. Also UCAS, they have information on internships, but I'm not sure if they're summer internships. But have a look at those and see. When you're at university though, we have like the careers team are there, you can go and talk to them, organise a one-to-one appointment, email them, whatever you prefer, and they'll be able to give you some guidance on that. We also have a careers festival that you can go to, where you actually get the chance to talk to employers. So even if you haven't found an internship on their website, you can always just ask them, go with your CV, see if they'd be interested in having you shadow or do an internship over the summer.
That sounds great. So we've got a student asking a question about applying for courses that are quite varied and over different specialisms or departments, and how you would view that. So yeah, could you say a bit of a question about that?
Yes. Yeah, so if you're on your application, if you're applying to courses that are quite varied, we don't get to see the other courses that you've applied to when we get your application. It's only when you kind of choose your first and second choice that we see that data. So from our point of view, we wouldn't see the variation of courses that you're intending to go and do. So we don't have any bias because we don't see that. You would make life a little bit more difficult for you with regards to your personal statement, because it would be one personal statement for all those 5 choices that you make. And if it's varied, it means that you're having to make your personal statement a little bit broader, maybe than it would be if you just chose like 1 or 2 subjects that are reasonably similar, just because you've got to make sure that your academic and your knowledge is related to all of those. Hopefully though, if you are picking courses that kind of are a little bit different. They will have some things in common, which is why you're interested in them, because usually you're interested in something, and that kind of the courses will have elements that are really in common, especially if you're doing science. There's a lot of different academic skills that can be used in science that will relate throughout. So maybe if you know that you're kind of going for a variation of courses, sit down, look at the modules that they do, and highlight the ones that you think that there's kind of common themes with, or common skills that you would need. And that will really help you kind of make sure that you kind of tailoring your personal statement as much as you can with that.
Yeah, thanks. That's great. And you can always come and chat to us in careers as well. You know, if you're having some problems kind of deciding where you want to go to, it might be that you do decide to apply for different courses, and we always have students every year that do that. But if you wanted to chat it through with us, your own particular case, you can just get in touch with us by emailing careers. So yeah, thanks, Savannah. Another question which is asking about whether the student should be doing any extra reading. I'm guessing that's for the personal statement. I'm not sure what course the student is interested in, but should they be doing any additional reading? And if so, when?
Yeah. So with your personal statement, you need to be using the subjects that you're doing at the moment, and using them to show how they relate to the course that you want to do at university. Even if you want to do something like biology at uni and you're doing biology, English literature and psychology, there's skills from that will be really important for your biology degree, like critical thinking in English literature, nature nurture argument from things like psychology. So that's the first thing to do. But the thing that's going to make you really stand out is showing the independent learning that you're doing, because it's just going to increase your depth of knowledge. So I would definitely recommend doing some extra reading. If you don't know what books to look at, go onto our university website, click the chat function, and you can find ambassadors and academics from the course you're interested in. Just pop them a question and see if there's anything that they would recommend that they've been looking at or they looked at when they were in your position. Extra reading is a really, really good one to do. It will really help. Things like Google Scholar, they've got loads of journals on there as well. So it's not like you have to buy reading necessarily either. So do have a look at that, and if you want to do extra reading, the sooner you start, the better. If you leave everything last minute, it just means that you're kind of going to be stressing out, and you want to make sure you're doing that extra reading before you start your personal statement or while you're doing it, because if you're going to mention it in your personal statement, you need to be able to say the benefit of that. And if you're kind of planning to read it but you haven't read it, but you're going to put it in, you're not going to know the benefit of that. So you do need to make sure that you're kind of doing extra reading probably around now, before you start your personal statements or while you're just starting. But there's other things that you can do for independent learning as well. We've got loads of taster lectures that you can have a look at, things like TED Talks, massive online open courses as well. If you Google mooc.org or Google FutureLearn, there's loads of different modules there. They're all free to do and can really help develop your knowledge and show that you're being independent and motivated as well.
That's great. Thank you, Savannah. So I've got a couple of questions, but just a call out again, if you want to submit your questions, just send them through. I definitely thought we'd have more about medicine and foundation medicine. Maybe they're saving them all till a bit later. I was just wondering, are there many courses that you interview for?
Yeah, so there's not too many really, which means that your personal statement is really important, because it's kind of might be the one opportunity that you get to really kind of sell yourself. But the interviews that we do it for medicine, foundation medicine, nursing, physiotherapy, allied health as well. I'm trying to think if we do it for anything else. I believe they're the only ones. It might change year on year, but it's usually just those 5 that we interview for.
And those the nursing and midwifery courses that you run, they're fairly new, aren't they? They're
Yeah. So they're fairly new, and it's really good because you get a leadership qualification as well with them. So you start your placements in your first year, and they run throughout your degree, which is really good because you're getting that placement in clinical learning practice. And also the leadership qualification that you get additionally just means that if you go for a promotion, a lot of people usually have their nursing qualification. That's just giving you something a little bit extra, which will hopefully help you when you do come to that stage as well. And that's the same with midwifery too.
And so they're 4-year courses?
Yeah, they're 4-year courses.
Yeah, okay. And what are your plans for September? How are you kind of approaching the new term and everything there?
Yeah, so we're doing something called Ignite, which sounds really fancy because it is. And it's kind of dual learning. So you kind of have the ability to flex. So some of it, like your lectures, will be more virtual to start with, and then slowly start to become physical, but they'll still be recorded. So if, for example, you feel like you are unwell and you might need to self-isolate, or if you feel like you're quite at risk as a person and you'd rather do it digitally, you have the ability to flex and do it more digitally than in person. And then we're hoping that for the smaller group things like practicals, some seminars as well, we'll be doing those physically when we start in September. So you're getting that hands-on experience just in smaller groups to make sure that it is safe and you get to social distance. But seminars as well, they will be recorded. So if you do feel like you don't feel safe going in that environment, there's the option for that as well to kind of flex. We are doing kind of a freshers week as well. It's just going to look a little bit different. So you're still going to get the opportunity to meet people on campus too, which is really, really important because that's the most exciting thing, seeing loads of new faces, and you get to do that, and we'll have lots of things kind of online and some physical things as well. So you get that opportunity too. As well, there is accommodation packages if you were thinking about going into accommodation, if you want to kind of be away from home, and they're being quite flexible with them as well. The tenancies aren't going to be a year long, they're going to be kind of doing shorter tenancies, so you can kind of deal with that as well and see what happens in September and what you want to do, if you want to kind of stay at home or you want to maybe go there. They'll have packages as well, so you have like bedding and cutlery and stuff, so if you do want to just come there for a week and try it, there's that option too.
Oh, that sounds like you're being very responsive to that. That's great. A student's just, thanks Savannah, a student just submitted a question about the UCAT. So for medicine, how you they're asking for the minimum UCAT score that you need. I think it's exactly done like that, is it? But how do you sort of look at the UCAT?
So you can find all the statistics that we've had over the years online. We're quite transparent about it. So I would definitely recommend having a look online because it does change year on year. So just have a look at that. We do ask for the UCAT, so we wouldn't accept the BMAT. And how we look at it is it's usually kind of the top 3 bands get in to have an interview, well, an MMI. But where you are in band 3, if you're in band 3, it will depend on whether you kind of you do get an interview or not, because they look at it on a case-by-case basis when it gets to that stage. We also take into account your GCSEs as well. That gets combined with your UCAT. So it just means, you know, if you've done really amazing on your UCAT, but you maybe haven't done as well as some others with your GCSEs, there's still opportunity for you, and it makes it really fair because, you know, not everybody knows that they want to be a doctor when they do their GCSEs. Different circumstances might mean that you didn't get, you know, all A's. So that's why we do it like that, to make sure everyone's got a fair opportunity. But yeah, have a look online and you'll get to see exactly where that band is, and how they look at you on that case-by-case basis as well. But yeah, the higher you can get, the better. People usually do better over the summer than they do like September time. So I would definitely recommend doing it over summer when you've got maybe a little bit less on as well, if you feel like you can, because statistically people do better.
Okay, yeah, and I think you sent us through those statistics, didn't you? That was on some of the information you sent through, so that information's will be on WQE online on the medicine section. So if you have a look at that, that's the statistics that Savannah was talking about. They're very open about and transparent with your process, aren't you? It's very clear with you guys. So
yeah,
I think that's really good. Okay, so we don't have any other questions from students yet. But feel free to submit them. We've got probably about 5 or 10 more minutes that I think we can keep Savannah for. So please, if you have any questions, feel free to fire them through. I was just wondering, what would you say to students that were wondering how they could make their application really stand out?
Yeah. Pardon? Sorry.
Sorry. Would you have any advice for that?
Yeah, I'd say the most important thing is to show how unique you are and well-rounded you are as well. Pick the best examples. So if you've got specific transferable skills, for example, or academic skills, talk about the things that you're really passionate about and you know the most about. So if you do get invited for interview, you can really go into depth with that because they use your personal statement to kind of base questions on as well sometimes. So I'd really recommend that. And anything that you do, anything that you've done that's a bit outside of the box will really, really help with that, which is why, you know, doing your independent research is so important, because everybody will, you know, do the same things if they're doing a specific exam for a subject. You know, there's certain things that you have to read for that, which is absolutely fine and write about that because it's developing your knowledge. But the things that you do outside of your subjects in school, they're going to really kind of show off because it's independent stuff that you've done that other people might not have done. So that will really be something interesting that we pick up on as well. But you know, the more you can write about yourself, making sure that you're using kind of the ABC method, so you're backing everything up, that makes your personal statement really, really strong. Avoid lists as well, because it's great saying that you have teamwork, organisation, multitasking, but if you don't say how you've got those and what benefit it is, it doesn't look that good. So make sure you're always backing stuff up. Try not to right click for the synonyms. It's really tempting. I know when I started my degree, I wanted my essays to sound really fancy, but a lot of the time it just makes it really hard to read, and the words don't necessarily mean exactly what you're trying to portray. So just be really clear, be really precise, and make sure you're always evidencing and relating back to the course as well. Show you're passionate about what you want to do.
Okay, that's great, thank you. When students get to Leicester, are there many opportunities for part-time employment and that kind of thing for them?
Yeah, definitely. So because we're a campus, you've got the best of both worlds really, because you've got the city that's got lots of opportunity for kind of part-time work in restaurants and cafes and things like that. But then in the campus itself, we've got something called uni temps. Which means that it's kind of our own recruitment agency that's run by the university, and there's loads of different opportunities to work in departments in the university and to work in the hospitality aspect of that as well, like some of the like the cafes and stuff we have. But there's also something called student ambassadors. If you've ever been to any of our events online or physically, you'll see these students with their red tops on and always looking pretty cheery as well, and that's such a good opportunity, and I definitely recommend being one. I was one when I was at university. It's really nice because the employer is the university, so they're looking after you, making sure that you've got a maximum amount of hours that you can do as well, so you're never doing more than you should, which is really good because it means that you have that time to study your course as well. So you're like, they're really interested in making sure that you do excel in your course, that you've got enough time to do your independent reading and stuff. So I definitely recommend that, just because they look after you, and you get to do really cool things as well, like help on the open days, see people who are kind of in the position you're in now, help departments as well with different things that they're doing, and even go into schools sometimes and talk to students about your experience, which is really, really fun, especially if you go back to the school that you went to and get to talk to people, because there's some familiar faces there, and you're like, yeah, look at me now. It's great. That's definitely one I'd recommend. But yeah, loads of opportunity for part-time work, and there's quite a lot of scholarships and bursaries out there as well. So it means that you've got a lot of opportunity to kind of have extra funding. But yeah, for more information on scholarships and bursaries, you can find loads out on our website and on other universities' websites. Make sure when you do your student finance, you tick a box that says share information with universities, because it just means you get that automatically, and there's nothing you need to do for a lot of them. Some of them you do need to apply to, like music and sports scholarships, but it does mean that you kind of get them, and it's easy and it's additional funding, which is great. And as well, there's loads of companies that do them as well. So look at the scholarship hub. There's some really weird and wonderful ones that you might not realise you apply for. Vegetarian Society do a grant for students that are in hardship, and it's £500 if you're a vegetarian and pledge not to eat meat while you're at university and complete it. There's also one if you've had if a member of your family's been a greengrocer, I think it's called the Leverhulme Trust Bursary. So if you've got a greengrocer in the family, see if you're eligible for that. So yeah, there's lots of different opportunity for work and funding as well at uni.
That's great, thank you. Okay, so we've not had any other questions come in, so I'm going to ask you one final one, if that's okay. Just to say, is there anything you wish you'd known in year 12, or any kind of advice you'd give to our students that are maybe looking to the future now, to sort of help them?
Yeah, definitely. I think scholarships were a massive thing that I kind of wish I knew more about. So I definitely recommend having a really big look at those, because some of the companies that are doing them, a lot of people don't realise. So it means that if you find out about it, it's free money, so it's worth doing. I was quite good with my personal statement, and I started early. And I'm very, very glad I did, because it took me about 13 drafts, a bit excessive, but you might be in the same position as me. I find it really hard to talk about myself. So I needed that many drafts just to make sure I was on point with everything too, and everything kind of looked grammatically okay. The more time you give yourself, the more happy you'll be when it's done. And that just means that, you know, if you don't get an offer from a university and you kind of rushed your personal statement, you might be thinking, oh, well, maybe if I just included that, I would have got an offer. And that is like the worst thing to happen. A few of my friends felt like that, and I'm really glad I didn't. So yeah, I would say start early, look at things like scholarships and bursaries, especially with your parents. I was the first in my family to go to uni, and we had no idea how student finance worked, where we were going to get funding from, and it took my mum quite a bit of time to get her head around it, and how student finance worked as well. It's really easy, and we have student finance talks as well on our open days, and a webinar as well if you want to know more about that. But I would definitely have a look at that, just to make sure that you're put at ease, because you will be put at ease. There's funding there for you to make sure everyone can go to uni. So yeah, definitely look at that, I would say, and have a look at the unis. I didn't look at one of my university choices before I went there, and I ended up studying there, and I'd never been to the university. I'd just been on their virtual YouTube tour, because when I was studying there wasn't this amazing technology there is today. So definitely try and visit the university for an open day or an offer holder day, because if you hold an offer for us, we do those March, May time, and hopefully, fingers crossed, next year they'll be on campus, because we'll be back to normal as well. And you are pretty close anyway, so you can probably have a little bit of a snoop, even if you don't come to one of those actual days for us either. But yeah, definitely visit your choices.
Great, yeah. What great, that is great advice, absolutely brilliant. So thank you so much, Savannah. Thanks to Becky and Jeevan behind the scenes, and to you as well, Savannah, for giving up your time this afternoon. We really appreciate it. We really
thank you for having me,
guys, to be involved this week, so I'm really glad that you could be. And thanks, of course, to the students for coming along and for asking your questions. So that's it. We're done. Enjoy the rest of your afternoon, and thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.